Hello, and welcome to Question in a Bottle. In this series of short discussions, private investor Mark Atkinson answers questions sent in by listeners and subscribers to his main podcast, The Desert Island Investor. So, let's take a look and see what's in the bottle that washed up on the beach today.
Right, Paul, we have a question from Dorset Dave. Dave asks, Mark, you attend AGMs and also have had private meetings with management and board members. Are you ever at risk of becoming too close and friendly and this blurring your investment decisions? Thank you for the question, Dave, and it's an interesting one. In the film Kill Bill, Volume 2, Beatrix Kiddo, played by Uma Thurman, goes to Acuna, Mexico, and meets Esteban Vigeo, who helps her to find bail. And in their exchanges, Esteban says to Kiddo, I must warn you that I am susceptible to flattery. And I think I'm pretty much the same. Now, I think that is perhaps the greatest threat, thinking that you are being treated as special and that rosy glow that it gives. And it's a natural human emotion. We much more enjoy being treated nicely and flattered than badly and insulted. Every board tries to put as positive a spin on the business as possible, hugging to but not straying over the border into outright deception and lies. In fact, in trading updates, you will often find that boards underpromise and subsequently over-deliver, not just to manage expectations, but also legally. You cannot be penalised for underplay, but you can be for overplay. Probably the greatest opportunity shareholders have to meet directors in person is at the annual general meeting. That is, however, those that still have physical annual general meetings, as although they are presently low in number, there is an increasing trend in moving across to online annual general meetings only. And I'd suggest that this insidious creep needs to be stopped in its tracks and reversed before it becomes fait accompli. It's universally unpopular among shareholders, and it's not being voted on democratically. But that's another story for another question in a bottle. All shareholders are entitled to attend, nothing special there, but after the formal meeting, there's often an informal mingle and chat. And how nice is it when the CEO remembers you from last year and indeed remembers your name? And it's dangerous to then interpret something he or she has said as a special nod or a wink. The director may have crossed that border of deception, but as it's in a conversation on a trading update, it retains that plausible deniability. It can be a dilemma where you genuinely think that the investment case is excellent, but at the same time, your self-aware doubting yourself, that your subconscious has been manipulated and influenced by kind words, and the CFO taking you by the arm and saying, please, Mark, there's some people I'd really like you to meet. There's nothing quite like a gentle stroking of the ego. Because I'm a long-term holder, it's therefore no surprise that with a number of my holdings, especially the smaller caps, after a number of years, that I'm known to the board. On another level is the individual email or private phone call that you're granted, or a meeting or a site tour as part of a larger group, or as an individual perhaps concluding with some refreshments in the boardroom. These are nice trappings, and I'm a great advocate of seeing the inner workings of businesses and having a degree of access, but we must be self-aware to battle our judgment being impaired, and the head overcomes the heart. You can love a business, but it can't love you back. I'll give you a couple of examples of companies I've met with this year and whereby I've increased my holding. So the first was MP Evans, where I spent 4 days with the members of the board and senior management out in Indonesia at the Bank Estate. And let me state here that this was one of the best life experiences I've ever had. I was the only shareholder amongst a wider party, and I was the recipient of some terrific hospitality. The access really helped me understand the business, and my consideration was that this business is set fair with great potential. Following the trip, and what I had learned, I added to my holding, but this was some 6 weeks later. I didn't just sleep on it or give it until the cold light of day. I gave myself sufficient time to fully reflect and give due consideration and thought being impetuous. On the 18th of March this year, there was an RNS release for Titan Holdings announcing that our chair and CEO had increased their holdings in not insignificant numbers. On the 25th of March, I attended the annual general meeting, and I thought that the business had made significant progress in the last 12 months. We're not out of the woods yet. The attitude to shareholders was a lot more positive than it had been 12 months prior. And perhaps there was a hint that we were turning the corner. So this is a business where, after the release of the interim and final results, the CEO, Tom Carpenter, has offered me a one-to-one, either call or a meet. So there, I made a modest addition to my holding, following the fine example of our chair and CFO adding to their holdings. But again, this was 4 weeks after the annual general meeting. Again, I gave myself that period of reflection. What's that saying? Act in haste, repent at leisure. Sometimes you feel that if you do not act quickly, the opportunity may run away from you. But on balance, some time to chew everything over might be best. Again, I don't have a definite length of time to use as a guide. Now, do not think that I top up every holding following an AGM visit, private call or meet. I am selective, and time will only tell over either the wisdom or folly of these two recent examples. I will also share a different example. 3 years ago, I attended the Ampario AGM. This was the first and only time I've attended it, and this was held at the plush Van Dyke Wilds Hotel in Clown, Chesterfield, Derbyshire. And I stayed over for a couple of nights at a much more modest establishment. At the AGM, there was just myself and one other shareholder, and I did ask at the annual general meeting why we had hired a hotel instead of conducting this at the business, which is some 10 miles away, and I was told that they only had a very small boardroom and that they didn't know how many shareholders would be in attendance. So I found our executive board members extremely engaging, willing to answer all questions submitted in full in a warm and helpful manner, and indeed expand beyond the core question. However, very early in the proceedings, I considered our chair, Kate Allen, to be overly censorial and at times bordering on dismissive of our questions. And it may seem something of a farce if only 2 people attend, but I think that we should have still received the respect and time we deserved, especially as we'd gone to the trouble and personal expense. And I felt that the chair saw us as a mere annoyance and wanted the AGM wrapping up as quickly as possible. After the meeting, I thought we would be able to engage with the board informally, but there were handshakes and we were shown the door. So perhaps this was in order that they could then enjoy a leisurely hotel lunch uninterrupted. So the chair restricted the board from answering certain questions, which I did not deem market sensitive, but she said that this information would only be available to myself and the other shareholder who was present. So surely it's not our fault if nobody else can be bothered attending. Like I say, I don't think it was particularly market sensitive what we asked. Subsequent to the meeting, it's hardly surprising that I was not reaching for the buy button. And it was a rarity, but I emailed our CEO, Richard Edwards, and shared my thoughts about how our chair handled the AGM. And unsurprisingly, he defended Kate and he pointed to her strong CV. I also said it would have been nice to have had an informal chat over a coffee and sandwich, which I meant metaphorically afterwards. Now, some people don't like speaking in public and may find the formal AGM intimidated. And Richard came back stating that as they don't know how many shareholders will be in attendance, they don't know how many sandwiches they would need and could either have too many or not enough. Now, my point about the informal chat afterwards seemed to have been lost due to the more important sandwiches. However, on that point, I'm sure it's not beyond the resources of a hotel of that calibre to rattle something up depending on attendance. Let's have it right. I don't travel to Derbyshire and stay over so I can have a free sandwich. In 2023, Kate Allen stepped down as chair, and this doesn't really cause me any upset. So the flip side can also be true. I've not added to Ampario since the AGM, but you should not necessarily be influenced by negative interactions that you have with the board. A pleasant experience with a board member does not mean it's an excellent business, and an unfortunate experience does not mean it's a bad business. So there we have it, Dave. We have to be mindful of our soft spots and think things through rationally, especially when there's money at stake.
Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please remember the content is for information only and it is not financial advice. If you have a question for Mark for our Question in a Bottle podcast, just complete the form on our website, thedesertislandinvestor.co.uk. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.